Enough exercise. Now let's do some real practice with this. Olivia rolled out the walker. But I can only manage a couple of steps with the walker, Fred protested feebly in a worried voice. Please don't get nervous. I'm here to assist you. Olivia put the exercise machine away and replaced it with a walker. Now get up from the chair, holding firmly to the arms. The gray-haired man obeyed. And now, hold on to the walker's handles. But I told you I can only walk several steps with the walker, Fred repeated with concern. I'm here to help. Don't be afraid, Olivia encouraged. The gray-haired man grabbed the walker handles tightly. Olivia approached Fred and took him by his arm. He made the first, cautious step. What seems difficult, even impossible today, may become easy tomorrow. I've never given up, never looked back, always went forward, Olivia said. I'm delighted to finally have a strong-willed person in my life, the gray-haired man uttered, making cautious steps. We'll practice every single day until you no longer need my assistance, Olivia said firmly. They circled the deck several times. Enough for today, Olivia said finally. Let's rest and have lunch before continuing. Good timing. I'm a little tired, so rest would be nice, Fred smiled. Of course you're tired, Olivia nodded. You're so out of practice. She helped Fred into a cobalt blue chair. Sit tight. The lunch will be served in a minute. Olivia made 2 sandwiches with thinly sliced roast beef, cheese, and salad, filled 2 glasses with orange juice, and returned to the deck. I am famished, the gray-haired man bit into his sandwich. What kind of food do you like? Olivia sat at the table across from Fred. All kinds of meats and tomatoes, Fred mumbled with his mouth full. My kind of food as well, Olivia chuckled. See the large covered things in the corner? That's a barbecue grill, and we're having barbecue for dinner tonight. I bought it to avoid spending too much time on cooking. It's great that you like meat. We can have barbecue for dinner every night. The gray-haired man smiled. You can move to the lounge bed, if you wish. It's hard to sit on these chairs for too long. That's a great idea, Fred said cheerfully. Olivia placed the walker in front of him. The gray-haired man rose laboriously, and with Olivia's assistance, moved over to the lounge bed. Adjust it yourself to flat or reclined position, Olivia said, helping the gray-haired man onto the bed. I prefer it reclined so I can see the ocean, Fred replied. As you wish. Rest while I do some household chores, Olivia said. The gray-haired man watched the waves for a while until exhaustion took over, and he dozed off. When Olivia came back to the deck, Fred was already awake. Dinner's in 2 hours, Olivia informed. Perhaps we can practice walking some more? Whatever you say. Fred pushed a button on the recliner panel, and his feet came down. Olivia moved the walker next to the bed, helped Fred to his feet, and they proceeded doing some circles around the deck. I think with the progress you're making, we can switch to a cane in a couple of weeks. And after that, you'll be able to walk normally, Olivia said. First thing tomorrow, I'll get you a cane. You think so? Inquired Fred incredulously. I haven't the slightest doubt. If you keep exercising, you'll walk in no time, Olivia assured. After several circles around the deck, they came back to the table. Olivia helped Fred onto a cobalt-colored chair and brought the exercise machine. Pedal while I'm cooking dinner, Olivia instructed. The gray-haired man began to pedal obediently. In front of him, not too far from the deck, the Atlantic Ocean rushed the waves toward the beach to scare the baby seagulls. The grown-up seagulls soared above, making the gray-haired man shift his gaze from the ocean to the far side of the deck. Olivia stood in front of the grill flipping meat. Next to her was a roller cart with a large bowl of salad, sliced tomatoes, a bottle of liqueur, and 2 flute glasses. Olivia finished flipping the meat and returned to the table. Dinner's ready. You must be hungry, Olivia said, unloading the food from the roller cart to the table. She put away the exercise machine and turned Fred around to face the table. She then filled the glasses with ruby red fluid and raised her glass. Here's to your quick recovery. Olivia took a sip. And to you. The gray-haired man took a large gulp. Olivia placed a large steak on Fred's plate and garnished it with salad. To live on the beach, see the ocean every day is fabulous. One could only dream about such a life. The gray-haired man cut a morsel of the steak. Behold, you live your dream now. That was always my dream too, and I couldn't begin to hope that dream would ever come true. Until one day when some man took your usual seat at the cafe. It pained me to see a stranger at your table, so I got very emotional and began to draw. After dinner, the stranger came to my counter to buy pastries for breakfast. I was so into my drawing that I didn't see him coming and continued to draw. He saw my drawing and got very excited. It turned out he was an artist himself. It was he who helped me sell my drawings. I will never forget the day when money from sales began to roll in. The first day I made so much money I couldn't believe it. A while later, I saw this house in a real estate listing. The owners were divorcing and needed a short sale. I was lucky to be one of the first buyers. Olivia sighed. I am very happy for you. Fred raised his glass and emptied it. I still have a bunch of drawings left, and you were in plenty of them. Olivia muttered with an embarrassed smile. What did I do to merit such attention? Fred inquired. I love you very much. My soul is miserable without you. Every time you showed up for dinner at the cafe, I kept glancing at you time and again. Were I not so deeply in love with you, my life would have been much easier. But I'm unable to rip your image out of my heart. Your happy face and radiant smile is permanently etched in my mind. Now I'm blissful because you're near, because I can see you all the time. If you never felt the pain of love, you won't understand. The pain of love is indescribable. It can't be compared with any other pain besides the one we feel when we bury loved ones. If only I could dislodge the love for you from my heart, place it in a box and bury it, then perhaps I would have rid myself of it. But it's never left me since the day I first saw you at the cafe. I apologize for my soliloquy. I didn't take you away from the institution to listen to my emotional outpouring. The alcohol exposed my pain I'm usually able to conceal. Anyway, eat your steak before it gets cold. Never mind the drama. I just can't forget how lonely I felt without you. Olivia blurted. You are very strange indeed. Your love is out of this world. I never heard of anyone madly falling in love with a complete, nameless stranger. The gray-haired man shook his head in utter amazement. Names are unimportant. Knowing someone's name gives you no insight into a person's character, Olivia objected. It's true. You never know a person completely. Fred mused sadly. Have you ever loved anyone to a point of obsession? Olivia looked the gray-haired man in the eye. Yes. I was in love, but not as deeply as you say you are. I could never imagine love could be this magnanimous till I met you, Fred said. Men are incapable of selfless love. They don't need it. They change women like socks, Olivia said. Isn't that a rather broad assumption? Fred inquired. Yes. Men use the word love lightly. It has no real meaning for them, yet women believe them. Men don't care about women's suffering. They easily switch their attention to other women and repeat the same empty words to them, Olivia blurted. If you have such a strong opinion about men, how come you say you love me so deeply? The gray-haired man asked. I wouldn't if I could help it. You have no idea how much I suffered because of you, how much heartache this mad love has caused me. Your smiling face has been haunting me since I saw you. At times, I even presumed that you laughed at me for loving you, that you had no feelings for me. That's what my life was like since I met you. But although I suffered so much in this limbo, I'm still confident that life without love is empty, and I want none of it. You see, I'm compelled to draw. But in order to do it, my soul must be on fire. I mean, the fire of love." Olivia smiled. "Here I am again talking up a storm. It's because my love for you makes me talk profusely. Anyway, let's have a drink because now I have no reason to suffer anymore. The heartache is gone now, and you are here with me. From now on, with you by my side, I will be the happiest woman on earth." Olivia teared up. "Drink up. You said you liked liqueur just as I do, don't you?" "You bet." Fred took a large sip. "Look at the sky. It's riddled with stars," Olivia exclaimed. "I used to stay on the deck for hours every night, dreaming about you, imagining you lay beside me, holding me in your arms as we both gaze at the starry sky. The dream came true. You were here, and we're both gazing at the stars." Olivia chuckled. The gray-haired man kept silent. "Perhaps my blabbering is putting you to sleep? I talk so much, I apologize. I just want you to know what my love for you has made me go through. Normally I'm not this chatty. In fact, I'm usually quite reticent," Olivia uttered. "Oh, please, talk away. I'm listening to your every word. The fact that you are so deeply in love never ceases to amaze me. Nobody has ever loved me this much." The gray-haired man shook his head. "I suppose no one can love as deeply as I do. It must be God's punishment for some special reason. Perhaps to feed my gift. I don't believe anyone else could suffer so much because of love. If only you could understand how happy I am to have you here. Happy to be able to see you each day of my life. I've never been as happy as I am now. First thing tomorrow, I'm buying you a cane. When you master the walker, we'll switch to the cane, and then you'll walk without any assistance," Olivia concluded cheerfully. "You really think so?" The gray-haired man peered at Olivia. "I haven't the slightest doubt," Olivia replied confidently, rising from her chair. "And now you must rest. I'll take you to your room." She moved Fred's chair away from the table, brought around the wheelchair and positioned it in front of Fred. She helped Fred relocate into the wheelchair and wheeled him into the house. "Let me remove your shoes first," Olivia said when she parked the wheelchair next to the bathroom door. She secured the wheel, bent down, and removed Fred's sneakers. She then embraced his knees and kissed them. The gray-haired man stared at Olivia in silence. She placed the walker in front of the wheelchair. Fred rose from it laboriously, grabbed the walker's handles, and shuffled into the bathroom. Olivia handed him the pajamas, made his bed, and exited the bedroom. When she heard the knock on his wall, Olivia returned to the bedroom, took Fred under the arm, and walked him to the bed. "A couple more days and you'll master the walker," Olivia said. "Are you sure?" "I haven't any doubt," Olivia said firmly, trying to instill confidence in the gray-haired man. "Tomorrow and every single day, we'll practice with the walker until you're ready for the cane." Fred sat on the bed. Olivia raised his legs onto the bed and covered him with the blanket. "Thank you," Fred said. "Good night, dear." "Good night to you too," Fred replied. The following day after breakfast, Olivia brought out the exercise machine and placed it in front of the gray-haired man. Fred pedaled till his feet became sore and started sliding off the pedals. After some rest, Olivia replaced the exercise machine with a walker, placed her hand under Fred's arm, and together they proceeded doing circles around the deck. After dinner, Olivia took the gray-haired man to the beach where they stayed until dusk. Olivia drew the ocean, baby seagulls, but most of her drawings featured the gray-haired man. In all of them, Fred stood on his feet, a radiant smile on his face projecting utter bliss. A month later, the gray-haired man aced the walker. Olivia didn't have to raise his legs onto the bed anymore. One morning after breakfast, Olivia suddenly put the walker away. The gray-haired man looked at her quizzically. She went into the house and returned with a cane. "I think it's time for the next level," Olivia said. grabbing Fred by his arm. "You think I'm ready for this?" Fred inquired incredulously. "I am 100% positive," Olivia blurted with all the confidence she could muster. The gray-haired man rose to his feet. Cane in hand, Olivia supporting him on the other side, he made several hesitant steps. "I told you you'd be walking with a cane in no time, and after that, no cane," Olivia said triumphantly, encouraging the gray-haired man. "You were right. I did it. Who could imagine it happening so soon?" Fred uttered, his entire countenance radiating pure joy. A week later, the gray-haired man felt confident enough to walk to the beach with the cane. He was endlessly blissful. They walked the beach together, Olivia's hand under Fred's arm. When he got tired, both sat on the sand only to get up after a while and continue walking at the surf's edge. When baby seagulls sighted the couple, they rushed to them to get their usual meal, and, having feasted on breadcrumbs, ran to the surf, milled about aimlessly until the ocean chased them away with foamy waves. Olivia and the gray-haired man watched the birds with admiration. Olivia was overjoyed to see her loved one walk with the cane. She kept drawing him, pervading her drawings with love. One day, when they walked the beach after dinner, the gray-haired man's sneaker laces came undone. Olivia bent over to do the laces, then looked up and noticed a sparkle in Fred's eyes, the sparkle that twinkles in the eyes of a man when he ogles an attractive woman. Olivia's heart skipped a beat, but then out of the corner of her eye, she saw a slender young woman with long curly hair the color of ripe wheat walking toward them, smiling and ogling the gray-haired man. Olivia paled, her countenance saddened. "Waves can't seem to calm down today," Olivia spoke to diffuse the awkward situation. "Let's sit down and I'll draw you." "All right," the gray-haired man acquiesced, lowering himself on the sand. Olivia sat on the sand beside him, took out a sheet of drawing paper, and began to draw. A slender young woman with shoulder-length blonde hair stood on the beach, her entire posture exuding pain and frustration. There were tears in her eyes. She was looking at the back of the gray-haired man in white slacks and black polo shirt, walking away without a cane. The ocean raged with threatening waves. The sky was covered by dark clouds. "You don't want to show me the drawing?" the dark-haired man inquired when Olivia shoved the drawing into the bag. Olivia felt embarrassed. "Oh, yes, of course," she replied with a sad smile and handed Fred the drawing. Why in your drawing is the sky dark and cloudy when in fact today is absolutely clear?" Fred wondered. Olivia kept mum. "And why is the woman so glad and her face so teary? Why is she staring after the man walking away without a cane? This can't be me." The gray-haired man smiled. Without saying a word, Olivia took the drawing from Fred and put it back in the bag. They stayed on the beach a while longer, observing the waves and the seagulls. Olivia strived to keep cool, pretending that nothing had happened, but inside, she felt terrible. She couldn't forget the sparkle in Fred's eyes she observed when he saw the blonde stranger. That night on the deck, following the routine, Olivia placed the exercise machine in front of the gray-haired man. When he finished pedaling, Olivia helped Fred up and they started walking circles around the deck. "We'll have barbecue for dinner tonight," Olivia announced when the gray-haired man settled into the cobalt blue chair. He kept watching the waves until Olivia brought a large plate heaping with meat, a bowl of salad, and cherry tomatoes. "Today we'll drink a different liqueur, amaretto." Olivia poured the amber fluid into flute glasses. "Do you like amaretto?" "Sure, who doesn't? It smells wonderful," Fred replied. "Then let's drink to you." Olivia raised her glass. "May you be healthy and happy. Now you can walk with a cane. Not very firmly yet, but I'm sure in a couple of weeks you won't need my help anymore." "I'll drink to that." The gray-haired man took a sip of the liqueur. "You know, At first, when I bought this house and moved to it from a tiny room, I was endlessly blissful. But within a few days, I felt very depressed. So I purchased those cobalt blue chairs that reminded me of you, of those happy moments when you sat at your table by the window. All day long, I walked to the beach and drew. But at night, when I sat on this deck, I felt particularly glum. I missed you, missed your face, your smile. Eat, the meat is getting cold. I become chatty when I drink the liqueur. You know what solitude is? It is perpetual chagrin of the soul. When you have nobody to talk to, when the one you love, the one you can't live without, is not around. So, you commit your heartache to the partner, because there's no one to share it with. That's what solitude is. My love for you brought me joy and pain at the same time. It filled my soul with angst because you were not around, and I had no idea if you ever would be. Olivia smiled, but there was nothing but sadness in that smile. You love too deeply, perhaps because you're an artist and all creative people are way more sensitive than others. Myself, I've never felt like that, the gray-haired man confided. They talked until bedtime. Then Olivia escorted Fred to his bedroom and placed a walker in front of him. The gray-haired man headed for the bathroom. You see, you can now walk fine with the walker. I told you you'd be all right, Olivia uttered joyfully. Yes, you were right. I was afraid I'd never walk again despite my doctor's assurance to the contrary. Fred went into the bathroom and closed the door behind him. Olivia made the bed and left the bedroom. When she returned a while later, the gray-haired man had already made it to the bed for the first time without any assistance. Good night, Fred, Olivia said. Good night, Olivia. Fred turned on the nightlight. Olivia went back to the deck, sat in the recliner, and drew the starry sky. The following day after breakfast, the gray-haired man exercised his legs on the machine. After that, escorted by Olivia, he walked circles on the deck, using his cane. After dinner, they went to the beach. Baby seagulls converged on the couple, waiting to be fed. They recognize us, Fred said cheerfully. Of course they do. We feed them every day, so they wait for us. Take the bread and feed them. Olivia took slices of bread from a plastic bag. The gray-haired man broke slices into little pieces and tossed them to the birds, who attacked the food, screaming. Fred looked at them with a smile on his face. See how hungry they are? Olivia inquired. Having finished their meal, the baby gulls rushed to the surf, but a wave crashed on the beach and chased them back. Scared, the younglings scattered, but for some mysterious reason, almost immediately turned around and ran back to the water. Let's sit down. You must be tired. Olivia grabbed the man's arm and helped him settle on the sand. I want to draw you. You're so handsome in the blue shirt. Olivia took a sheet of paper from her bag. Handsome? The gray-haired man chuckled. Of course, you're very handsome, don't you know? Olivia asked. The gray-haired man chuckled again, but his laughter witnessed the acceptance of fact. Olivia drew a handsome gray-haired man sitting on the beach, wearing dark slacks and a blue shirt, his face radiating utter joy. His gaze was concentrated on something to the left of him, and Olivia turned to see what it was. A slender girl with long curly hair was walking towards them, smiling at the gray-haired man in dark slacks and blue shirt. Olivia's face darkened, and she looked in the man's eyes. Fred sat as if nothing had happened, so Olivia continued to draw. When she finished, she handed the drawing to the gray-haired man. Pretty, very pretty, Fred uttered. Oh yes, you look overjoyed in it. Olivia looked Fred in the eye once again. The gray-haired man broke into a smile. Olivia kept silent, watching the waves to avoid Fred's eyes, afraid to reveal the fact that she knew. Would you like to go back home? Good idea. We've been here long, Fred replied. Olivia helped him on his feet. They walked home unhurriedly, the gray-haired man holding Olivia's hand. Suddenly, he let go of her hand. Olivia looked up at Fred's face and followed his gaze. He was ogling the slender young girl approaching them with a smile on her face. Olivia noticed a familiar sparkle in gray-haired man's eyes. Olivia's face paled, but she said nothing, pretending nothing had happened. Fred took Olivia's hand again, but this time his hand held no former warmth. It was a stranger's hand. From that moment on, the warmth of his hand kept evaporating until he stopped holding Olivia's hand altogether. Whenever the strange young girl appeared, Fred's face lit up. He tried to conceal his elation, turning his gaze away from the girl and talking about trifle things. Olivia lingered on the deck till midnight, visualizing the blissful visage of the gray-haired man when he sighted the strange blonde. Painful revelations about the fact that the gray-haired man had no feelings for her swamped Olivia. He was with her because she brought him to her house, not because he desired it or had true feelings for her. That simple revelation caused such an immense heartache that Olivia couldn't sleep that night. The following morning after breakfast, the gray-haired man did his usual pedaling exercise, then walked with the cane around the deck, escorted by Olivia. "Your gait is getting better every day. Soon you'll be able to walk without assistance and won't need me anymore," Olivia said. She was reluctant to reveal her true emotions, but her sad voice betrayed them. "I can't wait for the time when I can walk unassisted," Fred said cheerfully. Olivia's spirits sunk even deeper. She realized that when that time comes, the gray-haired man would be gone. What would she do if that happened? Why did she fall in love with him so much without knowing who he really was? "Let's go to the beach," Olivia suggested. She wanted to make sure the gray-haired man was attracted to the blonde stranger, not to her. "Good idea," Fred agreed joyously, perhaps thinking of the other woman. Olivia packed her drawing paper and several slices of bread into her bag, took the man under the arm, and the couple headed for the exit. The beach was nearly deserted except for several people, mostly older ones, some walking hand in hand. The gray-haired man was peering into the distance, most likely looking for the strange blonde. Olivia watched him closely, but Fred seemed oblivious to her keen gaze. The strange blonde was nowhere in sight. "You need to rest a while. Let's sit down," Olivia suggested. "You've made enormous progress, and I'm happy for you, but you need a break." The gray-haired man broke into a smile, and they settled on the sand, side by side. The ocean seemed happy now that it was finally getting undivided attention. It raised high waves and rolled them toward the beach. Olivia gazed at the waves, mesmerized. "I always dreamt of living next to the ocean or a river," Olivia mused. "But I could never believe that one day I would. The ocean calms me down. But when I lived by myself and walked the beach alone, I always wanted to cry. My soul was always blue. Ever since I fell in love with you, I was thinking so much about you, dreaming about you, imagining you loved me back as much as I loved you, so much that I firmly believed in my own fantasies. Every time you came to the cafe, I secretly stole glances at you. I visualized myself sitting next to you, and you were in love with me. Each time you left the cafe, I had a hard time restricting myself from crying. I understood that a handsome man driving such an expensive car wouldn't want to have anything in common with a lowly pastry vendor. Why would you want a relationship with me? I drew constantly, committing my chagrin, my pain to my drawings. It is tough to live without love, without the one you love, realizing that the one you can't live without doesn't care about you." Olivia spoke, her gaze glued to the waves. She then looked up and into the eyes of the gray-haired man with the very pain she was expressing in her drawings. Fred listened to Olivia in silence. "Yes, this is a great unfairness of life. Those who we love and make us suffer tend to love someone else." The gray-haired man sighed, breaking his silence. Their solitude was suddenly infringed upon by a flock of baby seagulls that surrounded the couple, milling about aimlessly. Olivia laughed. "Look, they've found us again. Let's feed them." She took out her bread bag and handed Fred several slices. Olivia crumbled the bread and tossed it to the seagulls. "Feed the seagulls, throw them some bread," Olivia uttered, noticing the gray-haired man's gaze was focused on something else. A slender young girl with long curly hair was walking towards them on the surf's edge, smiling at Fred, whose face lit up with his trademark cheerful smile which made him so different from others. Olivia paled and turned to face the ocean to make sure the gray-haired man didn't see her emotions. As if sensing the turmoil in Olivia's soul, the ocean raised huge waves, chased them toward the beach, and slammed them hard on the sand, angrily spraying the couple with foam and scattering the panicked baby seagulls, who, nevertheless, came right back searching for their leftover crumbs. Having found none, the gulls ran several circles and returned to the surf's edge. "Of course I'll feed them," the gray-haired man mumbled absent-mindedly, crumbling the bread in his hands. Both went silent, each mulling their thoughts. To conceal her emotions, Olivia pulled a sheet of paper from her bag and began to draw. A lonely gray-haired man in a small dinghy was sailing away into the horizon, facing rising waves ahead, some higher, some lower. Behind him on the beach stood a slim girl with shoulder-length blonde hair, staring at the man's back, her eyes teary, her face a mask of sorrow. Rain was coming down from the gloomy skies. She finished the drawing and shoved it in the bag. "Don't you want to show me the drawing?" the gray-haired man inquired. Olivia started. She completely forgot she was being watched. "Such a pretty drawing. You are very talented," Fred complimented. "But why does the girl in your picture cry? And why is her face so glum?" "Perhaps she loves him while he keeps floating away from her." Olivia looked Fred in the eye. The gray-haired man said nothing. It suddenly occurred to Olivia that she had never given any thought about his feelings for her. In truth, he seemed to have none. He kept his mouth shut because he had nowhere to go. He has no money, is a cripple, and God knows when he could walk without a cane. For those very reasons, he has to stick around. Just look at those gulls. Look how they scatter in panic when a wave approaches. Fred chuckled. Olivia tried to make a happy face, but failed, and cried instead, her heart wrecked by rejection. The gray-haired man reached out with his hand and wiped off the tears from her face. His cheerful smile gave way to sympathy. He couldn't be in love with her just because she loved him. Olivia read Fred's thoughts, held his hand to her face, and managed a pathetic smile, thus letting the gray-haired man know she'd forgiven him his trespass of indifference. You can't love someone for the sole reason that someone gave you a roof over your head when you had nowhere to go. "If you're tired of sitting, we could walk the beach," Olivia said. "All right, let's do it," Fred replied. Olivia took the gray-haired man under his arm and helped him up. They started walking, the man holding the cane, Olivia on his side supporting him. The baby seagulls ran after them, hoping for a treat, but Olivia had nothing to give them. "What a bliss it is to live by the beach. The view of the ocean is amazingly inspiring," Fred uttered. "True, I couldn't even imagine ever owning a beach house," Olivia said. Suddenly, the gray-haired man glanced sideways. His face lit up with a cheerful smile, and he let go of Olivia's hand. Olivia turned to see what Fred was looking at. A slender young woman with long curly hair was walking towards them, smiling. Olivia paled, but pretended she'd seen nothing. A little while later, the gray-haired man took Olivia by the hand again. "The ocean can't seem to stop making waves. It can't be quiet for too long," Fred uttered, attempting to conceal his joy from encountering the female stranger. Olivia clammed up, fighting a powerful urge to burst out sobbing. Where would he go? Olivia pondered as they walked home. He has nowhere to go, no money, a cripple with uncertain prospect of recovery. He is tolerating me because he has no choice. You see, you're able to walk with a cane without my assistance. You limp a little, but this will soon go. I'm very happy for you. It's a real tragedy when one is unable to walk, Olivia said. Yes, a tragedy indeed. But I'm content that I can finally walk again, Fred uttered joyfully. After dinner, the gray-haired man retired into his room for the night. Olivia settled into the recliner and spent a sleepless night on the deck. She was unable to forget the gray-haired man's excitement upon seeing the long-haired beach stroller. It became a routine. Every time they walked the beach, the gray-haired man's face beamed at the sight of the young woman, and the long-haired stranger beamed back at Fred. One day at twilight, when they, once again, ran into the long-haired girl, the gray-haired man's visage customarily lit up at the sight of the smiling stranger. Olivia looked Fred squarely in the eye, her face reflecting every emotion she was feeling at that moment. The gray-haired man stared back at Olivia confidently, his entire demeanor saying, "Yes, I love that girl. She is the one I choose." They walked back home in silence. "I'm doing barbecue for dinner," Olivia announced as soon as they came out to the deck and the gray-haired man sat on the cobalt-blue chair. The autumn sun set early, triggering floodlights by the posh beach mansions. A sprinkle of stars decorated the sky. Some were bright, others dim. Perhaps brooding for some reason or another, conceivably unloved by other stars that they used to shine brightly for, only the day before. People knew little about stars' lives. They assumed the stars just can't help but shine. Olivia barbecued the steaks and poured the liqueur into flute glasses. "Here's to you, to your happiness. May you be loved back by those you love." Olivia's voice faltered. "Such a great flavor," she said, having drunk half the glass. "And to you. May you always be happy," Fred echoed cheerfully. Olivia's face darkened. "Eat the steak before it gets cold. Barbecued meat smells delicious, doesn't it?" Olivia cracked a smile. The liqueur already had its effect. "Most people like it," Fred nodded. "Do you like watching the stars?" Olivia asked randomly. "I've never really paid attention to them," the gray-haired man replied. "When I was renting a tiny room, I always gazed at the stars in my window. I spent many a sleepless night thinking about you when you stopped coming to the cafe. I often cried in the yard gazing at the stars. It was a hard time for me after I realized I would never see you again. I had no idea how to cope with my loss. To love someone this much is catastrophic. Love is fraught with much pain and suffering when it ought to only make people happy, not otherwise." Olivia uttered gloomily. "Have some dinner, the food is getting cold." The gray-haired man filled up the glasses. "Yes, the meat will be cold," Olivia echoed absent-mindedly. They drank the liqueur and ate the meat, talking about mundane things until the steaks were gone and the bottle empty. "Perhaps you need to rest. I was talking too much, as usual," Olivia smiled. "Yes, rest won't hurt." The gray-haired man smiled his trademark cheerful smile. Fred no longer needed Olivia's help walking. He grabbed the cane and headed for the house. Olivia trotted beside him. She turned on the lights in the bedroom and made Fred's bed. When the gray-haired man got into bed, Olivia came to the bedside. "May I embrace you? I've never embraced you before," she said, looking the man in the eye. "By all means, go ahead." The gray-haired man broke into his customary effervescent smile. Olivia touched his hand, then ran her palm all the way to Fred's shoulder and touched his face, gently. Kneeling, she put her arms around the gray-haired man. "Please don't attribute this to the effect of the liqueur, all right?" Olivia said. "No problem." Fred chuckled. "Good night, then," she said. "Good night," the gray-haired man replied. Olivia exited the bedroom, closed the door behind her, and wiped off the tears. She cleaned up the deck table, washed the dishes, and put them on the drying rack. She then went up the stairs to her bedroom, opened the closet, and took out 2 large suitcases. Olivia started taking her clothes out of the wardrobe and packing them into the suitcases. Once she finished packing, she took the suitcases downstairs and put them in the trunk of her car. A large bag with drawings went into the front passenger seat. Olivia returned to her bedroom, took a bag with money from the closet, and sat down to write a note. I'm leaving for good. From this day, this house is yours. Nobody will ever bother you. I'm leaving the keys. This is the only set. The money will last you at least a year. After that, you can find a job. Be happy. Olivia. The following morning, as soon as she woke up, Olivia called the owners of the house where she used to rent a room. She was lucky. The room was available, and the owners were very happy to hear from her. Olivia went downstairs, trying not to make any noise lest the gray-haired man wake up, placed the bag with the money on the kitchen table, leaving her note and the keys next to it, and left the house. When the gray-haired man woke up, the first thing he saw was the turquoise sky in the window. He was excited. After breakfast, he'll go to the beach and see the pretty stranger again. Her enigmatic smile was haunting him day and night. She must like him too, otherwise she wouldn't steal glances at him, making sure Olivia didn't notice. He remembered the stranger's face and her youthful body, smiled, and went to the deck where he sat on the cobalt blue chair purchased by Olivia because it reminded her of him. Fred stared at the breathtaking vista of the Atlantic, which had woken up much earlier and was now enjoying the clear sky together with the gray-haired man. The ocean was playing with the waves, kicking them high as if trying to reach the sky, falling and throwing the waves on the beach in disappointment. Baby gulls rushed away from the surf from the oncoming wave, which succeeded in spraying them with foam. The gray-haired man was surprised not to see Olivia approaching him with a mug of hot coffee. He went into the kitchen, filled a large pink cup with water, poured it into the coffee maker, and pushed the brew button. There was an out-of-place bag sitting on the kitchen table. Curious, Fred opened the bag to see bundles of money. Flabbergasted, the gray-haired man now noticed a piece of paper weighing down the keys next to the bag. Flabbergasted, the gray-haired man now noticed a piece of paper weighted down with keys next to the bag. He scanned through the message rapidly, but it didn't make sense to him at first, so he reread it slowly. Fred's hands began to shake. He dropped the note and screamed at the top of his lungs. "Olivia, where are you? Don't play with me! I don't like this joke at all!" Complete silence reigned in the house. Only the fragrance of fresh brewed coffee reminded Fred that he wasn't hallucinating. Grabbing the handrail with one hand, cane in the other, the gray-haired man made his way upstairs. The dark redwood door across from the loft was open, and Fred stepped inside. A large redwood bed was neatly covered with a burgundy throw. The closet doors gaped open, revealing empty hangers and shelves. The gray-haired man went back downstairs and returned to the kitchen. The bag with the money and the note were still there. He opened the door to the garage. There was only his car. Olivia's was gone. Panicked, the gray-haired man limped into the front yard, circling the house. There was no trace of Olivia. Gradually, it started to dawn upon Fred that Olivia's note was no joke. "Olivia!" The gray-haired man shrieked and burst out sobbing. Forgive me, Olivia, that girl! I don't need her, I need you! Only you! It's you I love! Olivia, I beg you to come back. Don't leave me alone here. You are the one and only for me." The gray-haired man screamed uncontrollably. He was standing in the front yard of a posh 2-story mansion. The house was his, but he felt worse than he did when he was homeless. The mansion was totally deserted for the first time, ever since Olivia plucked Fred out of the institution in a wheelchair, a nearly broke cripple unable to walk. She loved him more than life, and he betrayed her. Betrayed, stealing luscious glances at another, deceiving Olivia. He didn't even care if Olivia noticed in his eyes the lust for another. The gray-haired man returned to the house and, passing through the kitchen, grabbed a coffee mug from the counter and smashed it on the floor. Pink fragments of the mug scattered all over the floor like fragments of a broken heart. He proceeded to the deck, sat in the upholstered cobalt blue chair Olivia had purchased as memento to remind her of the precious moment she'd first seen the gray-haired man at the corner table by the window, when she glanced at him from her pastry counter. Fred sat there staring blankly at the ocean vista, visualizing Olivia pushing him in the wheelchair along the beach so he could breathe the ocean air, firmly believing in its medicinal effect. She never once showed how hard it was to push the wheelchair across the dunes. Olivia's sudden departure, her giving up the house for his sake, felt like a slap in his face, much more painful than if she actually did it, reminding the gray-haired man of Olivia taking him into her house, nearly broke, and returning him to normal life. In a sudden fit of rage, he thought that if the slender beach walker who was shooting flirtatious glances at him happened to be within his reach, he would have slapped her across the face to make her feel the pain he was feeling now. He would have done it because the pretty gray-haired stranger deprived the gray-haired man of the only woman who loved him more than anyone else. Olivia went back to the town where she used to work at the cafe as a pastry vendor at the time when she was nearly broke. She stopped in front of the house, stared at it glumly for a while, then opened the door and came inside. Olivia's former tiny room was filled with as much chagrin as was her soul. Her narrow bed seemed to stare at Olivia longingly as if it missed her badly. She rolled up the old, dusty blinds, and the room filled with light. Olivia brought in her suitcase, opened the closet, and proceeded to unpack. She opened her bag of drawings. On the very top was a picture in a burgundy frame, featuring the gray-haired man sitting on the upholstered cobalt blue chair in the corner of the cafe, the way she saw him for the first time. Olivia stared at the picture for a while, then put it on the bedstand next to the lamp. She stored her empty suitcase in the closet, sat on the bed, and looked out the narrow window. She visualized herself on this bed, dreaming about the gray-haired man and drawing pictures of him, committing her feelings to the paper. Olivia teared up, covered her face with her hands, and broke out sobbing. "How will I live without him now? How?" she repeated time and again. Alas, she will have to manage somehow. She used to daydream about being together with him, but now those dreams were gone. Now, she will be alone forever. The solitude Olivia lived with when she was selling pastries for a living was now back with her to stay. In truth, although Olivia had as little money as when she was a pastry vendor, she now knew how to make much more than what she'd been paid at the cafe. She went to a cellular store and changed her number to make sure the gray-haired man never found Olivia if he decided to look for her. That accomplished, Olivia headed for the beach. Somewhere on the horizon, the mighty Atlantic raised high waves and sent them ashore in a greeting gesture, rejoicing the return of the old friend, pretending it hadn't seen her every day on the beach 3 hours away in the company of the gray-haired man. The seagulls sighted Olivia and flocked around her, possibly the same ones she used to feed daily. But now, grown up, they remembered Olivia's charity, unlike some people with short memories. Baby seagulls followed the grown-ups, who most likely informed their younglings about their benefactor who had fed them when they themselves were babies. Olivia went down on the sand and cried for a long time. Flabbergasted by human behavior, baby gulls quieted down and stared at the prostrate Olivia. The bravest ones approached her and even pecked her hands lightly, as if trying to console her. Olivia cried until she had no more tears. She visualized the object of her desire, stealing luscious glances at the long-haired blonde, hiding his true emotions from Olivia. Having calmed down, Olivia started pondering her future. She had to get used to living without the gray-haired man, to the fact he didn't care about her. Olivia now had a place to live. Now she needed a job to make a living until she drew enough pictures to sell. She knew it would take time. The mysterious urge to draw couldn't be faked. She got up and headed for the cafe she used to work at. The closer Olivia got to the building, the faster her heart raced, filling up with grief. "Olivia, what a surprise! It's so good to see you!" Olivia heard behind her back as she raised her hand to knock at the cafe owner's door. She turned to see the owner, a stocky middle-aged man, and smiled. "Do come in," the owner said, opening the door for Olivia. "Tell me what brings you back and how I can be of service." The man sat at a table, inviting Olivia to join him. She settled on a chair across from him. "I need a job," Olivia said point blank. The owner looked at Olivia with consternation since he hadn't forgotten about her rise to prominence and fortune. "You may have your old job back. My pastry vendor gave notice yesterday because she can't stand on her feet all day long. When can you start?" the owner inquired. "Tomorrow," Olivia replied happily. "Cool. I'm expecting to see you tomorrow then." The owner broke into a good-natured smile. Olivia thanked the man and left, but before she exited the cafe, she stole a glance at the vacant cobalt blue chair by the corner table where her adorable gray-haired man used to sit. With the gray-haired man's departure from Olivia's life, something broke deep inside her. She would have to learn to live without him, the same way people reconcile with the loss of loved ones, tortured by the pain, but eventually carry on. Yet the longer Olivia lived without her loved one, the more grief filled her soul, the more sorrow was in her eyes. She had to learn to live without the gray-haired man, thinking about him and loving him all the time. Olivia was aware of her mistakes, realizing that she truly loved the gray-haired man and fantasized about his feelings for her. Standing behind the counter all day long, selling pastries and coffee, she gazed at the cobalt blue chair by the corner table with pain, remembering how she used to hurry in the evening when the door would open, letting in the gray-haired man, remembering her falling in love with him more and more with every passing day. Many people occupied that chair during the day, but Olivia saw only him, her beloved gray-haired man with a cheerful smile on his face, which lingered in her eyes, lived in her memory and heart. Olivia vividly recollected him stealing glances at the young beach walker, shifting his gaze quickly not to reveal his interest in the strange girl. Olivia was a stranger to him from the beginning, and remained such for good. Now that she was no longer standing in the way of his happiness, he was free to be with the one he had chosen. The cheerful face of her beloved haunted Olivia, and, not to appear glum at work, she often stared at the ocean when she wasn't serving patrons. The cheerful face of her beloved haunted Olivia, and, not to appear glum at work, she often stared at the ocean when she wasn't serving patrons. But even the ocean view didn't bring Olivia joy. She remembered walking the beach hand in hand with the gray-haired man, the way he'd let go of her hand sighting the blonde beach walker while his face lit up, and he'd turn to face the ocean to conceal his joy from Olivia. All those seemingly trivial things kept bothering Olivia. On her way home from work, Olivia always strayed to the beach, watching it raise mighty waves and sending them towards the shore, either playing with Olivia or threatening her by the prospect of carrying her into the abyss and granting her eternal peace in its depth. Death is a scare to people who have something to lose, but Olivia was not one of those. She lost the most precious thing in her life, the gray-haired man with a cheerful smile. One day, Olivia drew her beloved one again. Wearing a chocolate-colored shirt with white elbow inserts, he sat at the corner table by the window. A girl with shoulder-length blonde hair, wearing a red sleeveless dress, sat across the table from him. It was Olivia herself. The gray-haired man gazed at her with a cheerful smile, but the girl's eyes were sad. She knew he didn't love her, yet she was reluctant to reveal to him the fact that his smile was a fake. He wore the smile for everyone, but Olivia thought it was for her alone. Bright, multicolored lights outside the window twinkled festively, but Olivia felt blue. In all her drawings, the gray-haired man stared at her with a cheerful smile on his face, as if nothing had happened. Indeed, nothing happened in his life. So when Olivia left, another one will come around, the one who had seduced him with her smile. But Olivia had no idea how to live without the gray-haired man. In one of her drawings, a stocky, gray-haired man sat in a wheelchair on the Atlantic beach. A blonde woman kneeled before him, tying the laces of his sneakers, but the man looked over her head at an approaching blonde beach walker, with his trademark cheerful smile. I have lost him again, now for good. Why did I fall in love with him so deeply? Why? Olivia kept saying, wiping tears from her face. In another drawing, a handsome gray-haired man with a sad face sat in a wheelchair. In the background towered a gloomy, 2-story institution building. A girl with blonde shoulder-length hair stooped in front of the wheelchair, holding the man's hands to her face, as if kissing them. His eyes beamed with love. Selling pastries and coffee behind the counter, Olivia kept glancing at the corner table by the window. Different patrons occupied the table during the day, but Olivia visualized only her beloved and herself sitting across the table from him. A waitress approached their table. "What would you like, my love?" the gray-haired man asks, touching her hand and looking into her eyes. "I'll have what you'll have, although I'm not hungry. It's enough that I can see you. I sit here just to look at you," Olivia says. "My dear, love this deep can be bad for you, even dangerous," the gray-haired man utters. "I know. Great love is fraught with great pain, but I can't deny myself loving you. My love for you is stronger than my will. It overpowers my heart," Olivia says. "Still, I will always love you more," the gray-haired man says in a suave voice in Olivia's dreams. "It's impossible. There is no greater love than mine," Olivia argues. After dinner, the gray-haired man and Olivia walk to the beach hand in hand. "Let's go swimming." The gray-haired man takes off his chocolate-colored shirt with white elbow inserts. Olivia ogles his firm, naked body, and her eyes tear up. "I love you so much," she cries out. The gray-haired man puts his arms around Olivia, who pulls off her thin dress with sunflower pattern, and they wade into the surf side by side. A large wave picks them up, bounces them up and down playfully, then passes them over to the next wave. Suddenly, one of the waves picks up Olivia's beloved and carries him away. Olivia hopes another wave will eventually bring him back so they could continue swimming on the waves together. Alas, waves didn't bring the gray-haired man back. They took away Olivia's beloved, separating them for good, jealous and unable to forgive them for their mutual love, knowing there is no mutual love,